And what's up, everybody? It's Terminator Juice with another Juice Opinions. It's only been just over a week. It is Thursday, December 6th, the night of the Game Awards, and more importantly, the midnight release of Smash Brothers Ultimate. So I will be heading to Best Buy about 11, probably around 11:15, 11:30 tonight. Don't know if I'm going to watch the Game Awards. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But before we get really started in the video game discussion, I gotta call out the moviegoers out there, the millions of people that support trash movies, like especially the Fast and the Furious movies that do like almost $1 billion. Meanwhile, there's a similar series but takes itself more seriously and has actual stories that make sense, good acting, and realistic looking stunts that aren't fucking stupid and ridiculous for the most part. A series that should be making the $1 billion and Fast and Furious should be the laughing stock. And that's Mission Impossible. Picked up Fallout yesterday, watched it. It's easily the best movie I've seen this year. As just far as just a quality movie. The endings, I feel like they reshot something because it didn't quite fit with the rest of the movie. But I still think I like Ready Player One overall more. But Mission Impossible Fallout is like other than the ending, which got a little ridiculous, like I was thinking this should be nominated for Academy Awards. Like it was just an amazing, like action-packed first like 2 hours, hour and a half. It's just so well made. Sound design, phenomenal. Stunts, camera, everything, cinematography, everything about this movie is just amazing. Yet I know they do okay, but the trash Fast and the Furious series goes out and makes hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion, and they're absolute garbage. They're nonsense. And then you got the smart, well-made, well-crafted spy action movies that get kind of fly under the radar. So just I've always liked the Mission Impossible series, minus the second one, which is hardly watchable at this point. But since Ghost Protocol, now then Rogue Nation, and now Fallout, they've been top tier. And you got to give Tom Cruise credit for the action sequences, the stunts, some of the some of the IMAX stuff at the end when in the helicopters is just, it's amazing. So anyway, I got a few people here now. I'll get into the video game stuff. First, I want to just point out that I've uploaded 2 videos in the last 2 days. The first one being Kratos versus Lara. And I took a lot of time capturing footage and trying to show the similarities in the game, but then I was trying to really show where the God of War limitations were versus the freedom you get playing the Tomb Raider. But watching it after I had 3 hours into it and edited it, I realized like it wasn't conveying what I was trying to say, because if you just watch it, it looks like, oh yeah, Kratos is jumping that gap. Oh yeah, he's climbing that wall. He's sliding down that rope. But I was trying to point out, and it's really hard to do without explaining it, was that Kratos don't do shit unless you get a button prompt or you're at the very edge of a ledge. There's where you jump a gap. You can only do it if there's a yellow rune symbol or gold rune symbol, and you're at the edge. You can't jump before. You can't run up and jump. It makes no difference if you're running or if you're standing still. You just got to hit the circle button. To climb, you have to get the button prompt on the screen. I did demonstrate that once, where if you look down and press circle, nothing happens. You got to look up, and you'll see the white dot turn into a circle. Then you can press it. The majority of Kratos's climbing and jumping, all of it is based on button prompts, waiting for the camera to get in the right spot or Kratos to get in the right spot before he will perform the action. Now you can sit there, you can run up to a gap and just spam the circle button, and he'll just jump it pretty seamlessly, which I did not show, which I kind of wish I did. But I mean, the good and the bad with the freedom of in Tomb Raider is there are some glitchy a few spots where you try to jump and like it'll be kind of caught in an animation for a split, half a second, as it figures out what to do, and then you can kind of glitch jump some areas where Kratos can just literally can't jump unless there's a button prompt. You can't just jump up, which I showed. So I got a few views, like 50 something views last I seen, but I just wanted to explain like if you watch it, like what I was going for. But also when I made that, I did realize how many similar moves both characters have. So yeah, it was kind of enlightening there. I was trying to just really show the difference between the freedom of movement in Tomb Raider and the limited movement of Kratos. But like I said in the video, it kind of you're just doing everything the same. There's only a few times where you can't do it. But let's see, Subliminal Lime. I finally able to get the first party NES controller from a store a couple weeks ago. 2 years later. Oh, was that additional controller for the NES? We'll talk about that. I'll talk about the NES and Super NES and the PlayStation Classic later. But yeah, if you watch that video, the other video I just uploaded was the PlayStation 4 controller, DualShock 4, whatever you want to call it. Has great gyro controls on PC. So go check that out. I bought a new DualShock because God of War wore out my R1 button. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do with the second controller? Then I was playing my Xbox One controller. The buttons are getting a little mushy. I did clean them out with some rubbing alcohol and compressed air, and I think it does feel better now. But the controller, I've had this thing for, I want to say 3.5, 4 years now. So it's definitely gotten some use, and I had that extra PS4 controller. So I was like, you know what, let me plug it into my PC. And turned on Doom, and lo and behold, there was gyro controls, just like the Switch Pro controller. And I was like, wow, that's cool. And then you also get the analog triggers. So go check that out. I think it's if you got one of those controllers, if you got a DualShock, I know people like to bash the DualShock because of I hate the PS3 controller. Let me just say that. But something about just the slight change they made to spreading those out and the controller width, I feel like it's wider. Let me see. It's just a little bit wider and these a little bit more grip for me. I find it very comfortable to hold. And yeah, so analog sticks feel great. So I'm really actually enjoying the DualShock. So now instead of having that wasted controller, I have another option for playing PC, especially for a first-person shooter. When Doom Eternal comes out, I'm exclusively playing it with the DualShock 4 for the gyro aiming. So really cool. And I never even thought to plug my DualShock into the computer. I didn't know I had a wired option. I thought you had to have a Bluetooth, but you can hook it up wired. And yeah, it's so far so good. I played a little Rocket League. Took a little bit to get used to the different layout, but once I got a couple matches in, I was just, I mean, it was like home. So if you got a controller lying around, I know a guy in the comments, the comment section said that he was using a 360 controller still, and I'm like, are you serious? Like, if you have a DualShock 4 in your house and you're still using a 360 controller on PC, switch immediately. Like, that's the 360 controller feels like absolute trash now, the D-pad especially. And Ibsters, this is not a clickbait video. I feel wholeheartedly that Sony overestimated the demand, but we'll talk about that later. So anyway, go check out that DualShock PC. You'll see my Doom gameplay. I recorded it. I forgot to, well, I didn't forget. I didn't know. I should have kept the frame rate at 60 because it's running at 60 to 120 frames per second, and at times the video looks like it's fast forwarded. Something about the recording software I use didn't like the high frame rate for recording, so it looks like it's in fast forward. because I thought it would look slow motion. If it records it at higher frame rate and then plays it at 60, you think it would look slower, but it looks like it's in fast forward. So yeah, the other thing, how's the DualShock compared to the Switch Pro Controller? The gyro feels equal to me, like as responsive. I have no, like, I wouldn't say one's better than the other without having extensively used both, but they both felt great. I've with Doom, I didn't go back and try the Switch Pro Controller, but I felt like my turning was a little bit more responsive with the Switch Pro Controller. It felt like the game thought I was using like the mouse, but and then the PS4 one felt like I was just using straight gyro. Like it feels like maybe they fixed this, because when I first did the Switch, it was still in beta, and that's how it was earlier this year. It felt like some of the movements felt like they were tricking the game into thinking I was using a mouse, and I got to sneeze. So. All right, I'm back. They might have fixed that, because now with the DualShock, it was just like instant, if as you saw. So I had to go back and try the Switch Pro Controller and give a full like comparison. Maybe I'll do a little video comparing the two. But as far as like my Switch Pro Controller is, it's always going to be upstairs. That's what I played my Switch with, unless I'm in portable mode, which is rarely. I have an extra DualShock, so I'm just going to leave it next to my computer in the basement. And, so I have really no reason not to. And plus, the DualShock has analog triggers for when I want to play Rocket League or a different game, maybe a racing game or something. So it's, for me, it's the better of the two for that reason. Another thing I want to talk about, just real quick, the Game Awards. I have a strong feeling that this show is now more about trying to be a new E3 type event and less about the actual games. We didn't really talk too much about the Game Awards on the podcast this week. We kind of guessed what Nintendo would do as far as announcements, but it really feels like Jeff Keighley's like, let's make this the new E3 for game reveals, this and that. Like, and let's not focus on giving awards to games that deserve awards. I would rather have it be more about the game award, and focusing more on the big awards. And like Clocked It made a video having people from the game industry present the awards instead of celebrities they're paying to make an appearance that don't actually game. The award show, like Jack Gates says, I think last year's the actual awards were kind of lame. It was nice to see Breath of the Wild, Nintendo kind of clean house there, but there's some major awards they just kind of brush off to the side and give during like a commercial. They seem to there ain't gonna be a lot of Nintendo stuff at the awards unless there's announcement trailers. That's the other thing. The categories are kind of silly. There's a couple of really ridiculous categories. There's huge, blatant omissions for best RPG, for best esports moment of the year. It's like, where did they get these nominees from? Where did they get the best RPG nominees from? How did they miss Xenoblade Chronicles 2, especially with all the content it got in 2018? Is Smash going to get skipped next year because it came out in December? It's like, it makes no sense. You can't use that as an excuse, but then Smash wins best fighter next year or something, and then for best esports moment, like some of the ones they listed are just like, oh, this team won, like, no, there wasn't any kind of like comeback, or a couple of them might have been. South London, what's up, man? I'm just about to talk about London, because in June of this year in London was the RLCS Season 5. And you guys know that I love Rocket League, but even as just an average person who likes any kind of competitive sport or any kind of competitive anything, if you know, especially like hockey, which has in basketball has game best of 7 series, you have the finals of the championship series between North America and Europe. Game 7, after it was already the first game, best of 7 was already won by the losers bracket. You're in the final, you're in game 7 with 0 seconds left. A rookie 15-year-old kid hits an amazing shot to tie the game as time expires. Like, the crowd went nuts. Like, you want to talk about a big shot, a big goal, and a big moment, and that's not best esport moment a nominee. Like, you have to just, I mean, I think I don't know really where they come up with a lot of the esports top nomination categories or whatever. It just feels like some of these organizations are paying for these categories. I don't know. But that one, to me, even if I wasn't a huge Rocket League fan, if somebody had showed me that moment, just hear the announcers, hear the crowd, to not even be nominated, it's like. And then the ongoing game category, you have Splatoon 2, which I'm not playing Splatoon 2 anymore, but that's an ongoing game. Rocket League's an ongoing game. And it's just like, where did you come up with these nominees? They created that category last year just so Overwatch could win something. That's what it feels like. And Overwatch is listed again. Destiny 2. I don't know that people are still playing Destiny 2. I didn't know anybody was still playing Destiny 2. So it's just kind of a weird thing in the game. The nominees are kind of weird in some categories, or seem pointless. And then they'll give out the award in like during the commercial or before the show starts. So it's like the awards don't even mean anything. So for those that just joined, basically my point is Jeff Keighley's trying to make this like the new E3, the new Tokyo Game Show, and just focus on game announcements and reveals, which is cool, but it's not really what what it should be. I don't mind a few game announcements here or there, some surprises, like the first time they show Breath of the Wild actual gameplay, back when it was Zelda U 2014. That was cool. And the actual awards wasn't that bad that year. But it just feels like if you read his tweets, Jeff Keighley's like, the biggest gaming event of the year. Like, no, it isn't. It's in your mind it is, but if you actually focused on the awards and, did what Clocked It suggested and have like gaming legends giving out these awards or being the presenters and stuff, that would have so much more impact for gaming. But it's just, I think it's really trying to cater to the casuals more than anything. So let me just catch up on the chat. What's up, T? What's up, Laker Link? Ruby in the chat. God of War should win Game of the Year, but Red Dead is going to take it. I don't think Red Dead. I mean, it was the biggest selling game, but I don't know. God of War got way more praise from what I've seen, but so I guess I'll just give some thoughts on Game of the Year. I really think God of War is going to win. It's the only one on the list that I played, and I think it's deserving of the nomination. I don't know if it's best game of the year type of game, but really this year, one of the few games I bought this year. So I'm about to buy like my first Nintendo physical game in over a year tonight. Well, as far as bought and keep, I did buy Mario Tennis, but sold it. Got most of my money back. I think I lost $10 on that. So it's been kind of a down year. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, just a little lacking in content, I feel, is a strong contender for me. And then we'll see how Smash. I'm sure Smash is going to be great. No question about it. I don't know if Smash is a Game of the Year type game for me. We'll find out. Start tonight. Yeah, if you pre-ordered Smash Brothers at Best Buy, you get a $10 gift card just for buying the game, which I'm going to use on if I can find a Smash Brothers Pro controller, maybe tomorrow, or Maybe tonight. I don't know how quickly that $10 goes into effect. I do like that Smash Pro controller, and mine is feeling a little wore down. I ain't gonna lie. Sad thing when controllers start feeling worn down. It's like, what do? I still have a graveyard of old controllers in a box, and I'd hate to have to add the Switch Pro controller. Maybe I'll wait till it just gets a little more rundown, but definitely got a lot of hours on it. So I guess I'm gonna predict God of War for Game of the Year. I don't really know any of the other categories off the top of my head. Best family game, probably go to like Kirby if that's nominated. So as far as Nintendo announcements, my poll, which very surprising, I said which Nintendo game is more likely to be shown at the Game Awards, Bayonetta 3 or Metroid Prime 4. And out of 57 votes, it was like 54% Bayonetta 3 and 46% Metroid Prime 4. I was surprised. I thought Bayonetta would have been 70% plus of the votes. I expect to see Bayonetta 3 at the Game Awards. I don't expect to see Metroid Prime 4. So we'll have to see. I mean, I'd love to be wrong. I'd love it for it to be Metroid Prime 4, and it's very impressive, and it's a great showing. That would be awesome. But Bayonetta 3, I'm excited to see it running on the Switch. Not having to worry about the second screen and whatever hampers the Wii U. I think the Bayonetta 2 port on Switch was lazy. I thought they could have done more. But I expect Bayonetta 3 to look significantly better than Bayonetta 2 did on the Wii U. So I'd love to see it tonight. Well, I don't know if I'm going to watch the show, honestly. I think I'd rather be playing video games. I got to try to get through Celeste, and I still play Rocket League almost every day. So I finished Starlink. I guess I'll just quickly Starlink, beat it in under 25 hours. Not only beat it, but I got all the planets liberated and nearly 100%. I think I have 3 planets 100%. The rest, I had a good chunk. And it's a pretty good game. It's better than I thought it was going to be. It's better than the first 2 hours suggested it was going to be. And I actually really enjoyed it. And I am going to turn it back on and probably finish up just those little mundane things I got to do to get the 100% on all the planets. So that's a permanently price drop on that game. Best Buy after Black Friday and all that, I saw the physical version of Starlink $39.99. And I'm like, I feel sorry for the people that paid $75 a month ago. But if you're gotta have physical and you want the toys and the grip and all that, $40 is a good price. I paid $44.99 plus tax for the digital, but I got 6 ships and all but 3 pilots and all that. But it's definitely a good game. I would recommend it. And I think I'm probably going to pick up Torna here. I started playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2 again, and I was like, man, I kind of want that Torna now. I wish I would have realized this a couple weeks ago or months ago, but there's time. We're going to do the Juices Loose Game of the Year podcast probably last Monday of January, just give everybody time to get it, smash in as much as I can, and any other games I need to finish. Basically, the criteria for Game of the Year for the Juices Loose is going to be a new game that released in 2018. That's we'll say a new game / ground up remake. So no remasters, no ports. So things that would qualify. Let's Go Pikachu, even though that's supposedly a remake of the original, or Shadow of the Colossus, that's a built from the ground up remake. That one's a little borderline, but I'm going to count it. And anything else people can think of, but games like, unfortunately, Hollow Knight and what was another really good game that came out late? I can't think of anything for me personally, but like, let's say Crash Insane Trilogy, Wolfenstein 2, Dark Souls. None of those would count towards Game of the Year, but I am going to have a separate category called Best Port Release on Switch. in 2018, and the criteria for that is it has to be a game that came out on another platform prior to 2018. So any port came to Switch that you bought that you want to say was your favorite of 2018. So let's say you play Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze for the first time on Switch, that would count for you personally, like, or anyone in the podcast. Me, I wouldn't count it because I already had played the game. So there's going to be, well, we'll discuss it. I'll discuss it with the guys, but look for that late January, where the Game Award should be late January. So every game from the year can be accounted for, but whatever. And then let's see, anything else before I talk about the PlayStation 1 Classic? Can't think of it. I know I had something else, but if it comes to my mind, I'll bring it up. So, PlayStation 1 Classic. Did Sony overestimate demand? Hell, fucking yeah, they did. I don't know if anyone would even argue that. I just came from my local Myers, which sells video games, and it's a grocery store. If you live in the Northeast or the east side of the country in North America, or the United States, I should say, probably know what Myers is. It's like a Walmart, but it's a more locally owned, less greedy, and they actually have quality products from meat to vegetables. They get them all local, so it's it's really high quality. It's what Walmart should be. They got good prices. But anyway, I posted on Twitter I was at Best Buy on Tuesday, the launch day of the PlayStation 1 Classic, and they had two completely full bins. One you could tell hadn't been touched. The other was full to the brim unless they had stacked on the floor or something. And I was there an hour and a half after the store opened, and they had these two huge piles, and they looked untouched. So I tweeted, I hope Sony wasn't expecting NES and Super NES level of success with the PlayStation 1 Classic. And it got some backlash from some Sony fans. Well, the NES, we only had 3 at our store. Well, yeah, GameStop's only had 3, but I don't know what Best Buy is. I think they had 8 to 10, which is low. Nintendo underestimated the demand. But when you have 30, 40 plus PlayStation 1s out on the floor an hour and a half after launch, and then I go to Myers today, Thursday, so 3 days after launch, and their section that they're in couldn't be there wasn't room for any more, and there wasn't a spot where somebody had took one. It was completely jam full, top to bottom, left to right. The space they gave it, maybe they had more in the back, I don't know. Completely full. There was a couple NES classics and about 4 or 5 Super NES classics, and there's just no doubt in my mind Sony completely overestimated the demand. Now you could say that you'd rather have that, and I can't really argue against that. You'd rather be able to go get one if you want one versus having to wait, get in lines, and do this ridiculous stuff. I don't like either extreme, but the point is, I think Sony really thought this thing was going to fly off the shelves, and I'd be curious to find out how many they shipped to stores and how many they actually sold, because I wouldn't be surprised if the NES Classic outsold it in its opening week, even with the short supply, just because they all sold out. And Slain Red says the same at his Best Buy. Terrell, Insane Game Freak, he had the same at his Best Buy. And you got to ask, you got to wonder, is it the game lineup? Is it the limited, the lack of the DualShock controller and the limited lineup that entailed because of, you got rid of most of the major games that use analog sticks, and then the final nail in the coffin was the terrible emulation. Yeah, Ruby, not even the scalpers wanted that crap. That's so true. No one wanted this. No one bought it, except for the other part I want to talk about is all these YouTubers who, it's their living and they got to make money. So they're going to sit there and bash it, but they got to go out and buy it and support Sony so they can have one, so they can make a video basically to make their money back. and gain more views and stuff and more subscribers. They're the ones buying this thing more than anyone. But so the lineup initially, the 5 games they show was like, okay, they're not terrible. And then they revealed the rest of the lineup, and on the podcast, we were just like, what the hell? Like, this is missing so many main games. And then we're like, wait, that's not the DualShock. No wonder they're not going to have these games, because who's going to want to use a D-pad on a 3D platformer? You know, like, it makes no sense. And people like to say the $100 price is the thing, but the Super NES Classic's $80. Same amount of games, basically. Yeah, there's some really hard to find games on there. It's a way better lineup for $20 cheaper, but it was a generation before. I would expect the N64 Classic to be $100 minimum with one controller, honestly. So the price, I don't think, was it. The system itself looks cool. I like how the USB ports, when you plug in the controller, has that little, looks like the original plug on the wire, you know, plugging into the system, whereas the NES and Super NES have the stupid Wii remote plug that just looks ugly and doesn't look like the original. But then you got, you know, word of mouth out on all these, how poor these games are emulated. And I thought the PAL versions were only in Europe. I didn't know the US one had the same issue with the 50 hertz games trying to run at 60 hertz, 60 frames per second, and it just playing slow and sluggish. But I mean, just look at the fucking Digital Foundry video for Grand Theft Auto. The original Grand Theft Auto top-down game runs at like 10 frames a second. Rainbow Six, a first-person shooter, you have to use the triangle, these buttons to look up and down and strafe, or no, these buttons to look up and down. You have to hold like L1 and then the D-pad to strafe. It's the most ridiculous, unusable control method, and it's just a fucking disaster. And like I said, all these YouTubers go out and buy these things because they can make videos and get, you know, huge views on them and gain sub counts. It's worth it for them, but they're supporting this piece of shit product. And Sony should recall the damn thing and start over, because what a disaster it's been. I mean, as a Sony hater, I'm glad they fucked it up, but it's also, I mean, the other good thing is Nintendo's going to know, like, okay, we got to make sure our emulation of these 3D games is on point. And maybe that's why we haven't even seen an N64 Classic, because they're having issues getting all those different, you know, game engines to run on emulation. So I really think it's not even debatable. Sony obviously thought this thing was going to sell huge. I bet you the PS4 Pro outsold the PlayStation Classic in the week it came out. I would not be surprised. The only market that maybe bought it maybe was Japan. Even I want to say parts of Europe probably did, because they'll swallow anything Sony, you know, puts down their throat. So I could see parts of Europe buying it, but Japan got a better lineup, and they like small, little, low-powered things, because you know, they got a lot of people living in a small area, so they do like the smaller, you know, low-powered devices versus like Xbox One X and PS4 Pros. So we'll see. I'd be curious. Besides just the PlayStation 4 Pro, I bet the NES Classic and the Super NES Classic outsold it this week. I'm not surprised. Xbox One X probably did in America for sure, with that $100 price cut for the, I don't know if that's still going on at Best Buy. So yeah, I mean, it's a shame for Sony fans, but I'm also happy that it's such a worthless piece of crap. So yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think about that other thing I want to talk about. And anybody got any questions? Anybody got any thoughts? Anything they want my opinions on? Let's see. I'm clocked it. I mean, I'm reading Prime Trilogy come. You don't want it looking too good, or it could take away from how Prime 4 looks. So I'd expect Wind Waker Twilight Princess treatment for Prime Trilogy. I'd be curious to see what they would do for a GameCube game on the Switch. I mean, Twilight Princess, they had to do a lot of texture work, but it still wasn't a great looking game. It was way better than the original, but I wouldn't say like Wind Waker was a phenomenal. Wind Waker HD is one of the best looking games, period. One of the best looking HD games I've ever seen. It was a minimal port, upres or a remaster, I should say. And so I don't know what Prime Trilogy would look like. I don't know what they would do, what they wouldn't do. Just give me proper dual analog controls if you're going to do it. I don't want the whole, you got to hold down the left ZL to turn or strafe or whatever you had to do. Just give me full dual analog controls if you're going to bring the Prime Trilogy to Switch or gyro aiming. Both of those actually. I don't know. That's not a bad point either. Clock that they're going to release the PlayStation Classic Plus or Pro. So with the DualShock, I kind of felt like that one. You weren't on the podcast then. I was like, you know what? They're going to re-release this with the DualShocks in a different library, so they can basically get people to double dip. I wouldn't be shocked, but let's see. Yeah, Prime Trilogy, Bayonetta 3 today at the awards would be killer. I'd be cool with Prime 4 instead of Bayo 3. Bayo 3 plus Prime is probably too much. Yeah, I could probably agree with that. But depends on what they show, if they show anything. Do they tease? Do they show like a full trailer? Is it a cinematic trailer? Is it a gameplay trailer? Could just whet the appetite just right, having both games. But I said I'm expecting Bayonetta 3. I don't want to say like I'm not 100% expecting it. I would not be shocked if they show it. I'd be a little surprised if they didn't show anything Bayonetta 3 related, but I don't want to go in thinking, Nintendo's they're gonna pull out some stops. It's definitely better to have lower expectations. Expect some kind of Smash excitement trailer, something, a tease about the first DLC characters. I don't know. And then, maybe some footage of a game we already know is coming. We've already seen like Fire Emblem or something, but maybe Animal Crossing footage. I don't know. What do you think of Microsoft wanting game pads on all platforms? Would Nintendo do it? What do you mean, Lake and Link? Yeah, I'm not sure. That's sure the question. Oh, Game Pass. I don't have no problem with a digital rental service. I mean, if you want to pay $10, I think Microsoft, because they're in third place, basically, this generation's lost. They have no choice. I think if anyone else did like a Game Pass, it would have to be way more limiting, because in a month, I could get through a lot of games. Like Red Knight, he got the Xbox One X like a week ago or something. He's already beat Doom. He's already beat Battlefield 1 single player. He's already played a shit ton of Forza Horizon. Like, that's not a good strategy for somebody that's in first or second place, wanting to be successful. But if I want to rent a game for $10, not, just download it and I get a week to play it or a month, whatever, I could see that becoming a thing. Like I would have loved to just rent Starlink for $10. Got through it in a couple weeks instead of throwing $45 on it that I'll never get back, that I kind of wish I hadn't. I like to have. I'm glad I played it, but I think I overpaid for it. And if I could have played it for $10 and given, not had it again, and just gone away or whatever, however that would work, I would have been happy with that. Let's see. Yeah, Clocked is not crazy hype for Nintendo's presence at the Game Awards, but more curious than anything. Yeah, I don't expect a whole lot of announcements from Nintendo. Really isn't getting represented that well this year. Last year, they pretty much ran the whole thing. So, and then I guess one last thing I'm going to talk about is our question. I'm thinking, and you guys can answer, what is the first new Smash character you want to play? Like, depending on when how they're unlocked. Let's say they unlock they unlocked right away, like a bunch of them. Who's the one new character you're most looking forward to playing as for the first time? So for me, I'm torn. I love the Inkling design. I don't know if they look like a fun character. I'm most looking forward to Piranha Plant, to be honest with you, but that don't come out till next year. So I would say Incineroar looks like a fun character. King K. Rool has the counter and looks kind of fun, but I hate King K. Rool as a character and his design. But he might end up being fun to play as. Simon Belmont, yeah, Ridley. For me, it's really hard because Piranha Plant's easily my number one. So my number two, which I'll have access to, probably within the next few days. Maybe, I mean, Simon Belmont from a move standpoint, he looks cool, just like Cloud. I really like playing as Cloud, but have no attachment to the character. I have no attachment to Simon. So, like, based on the nostalgia or anything like that, it's really none of the characters, but based on the move sets I've seen, I'd probably say Incineroar looks like he's going to be fun to play as, even though I hate how he looks. Have no attachment to him. Didn't even know who he was when they showed him. Simon Belmont looks like a fun character to play as. So who else? Ridley. All the others are pretty much Echo fighters. I'll give Crom a chance over Rory. Inkling's top tier. Simon, both top likely picks. So who is going to be your first unlock, you think? Like, I'm going to guess, if it's random, like I think it is, I'm going to get my most hated character probably. It's probably going to be fucking Mr. Game & Watch. Probably be the first one I unlock. I remember the 3DS version or Wii U version. I got Lucina was my first unlock. I was so happy. So we'll discuss that on the podcast. Who was your first character that unlocked? And then, who was your favorite of the new characters? All that will be discussed on Monday. Talk about the PlayStation Classic. Talk about the Game Awards. Talk about Bethesda being assholes. And yeah, so I'm going to wrap this up so I can get back to playing some games and get something to eat before the Game Awards start. I'll probably actually have it on and then just be gaming at the same time. So be playing something single player so that I can just pause it and oh, a new trailer for here's the Nintendo reveals, that kind of stuff. So Razor Rain, I love Bayonetta as a character. I'm not very good with her on Smash, but I'll still be excited. Wii Fit is the character I most want unlocked because that's my main. So that's the one I'll probably get last or close to the end. But no, I won't live stream the Game Awards because it's too long. It's probably gonna be 3 hours again, and I just don't care enough. I can't sit here that long. I'll have to. I'm too. I can't sit for very long, so I'll have to get up and. Sometimes I game standing up just because I can't sit for too long. But anyway, that's going to be it. Thanks for everybody for tuning in on this Thursday. Could do it at a decent hour because I had work off all week. And so everybody in the UK and Europe can check this out on a weekday. So everybody have a good night. And hopefully some good announcements come tonight. And I'll see you online on Smash. I'll be playing tonight if anybody wants to play. You're on my friends list. Send me an invite if there's invites. I don't know if there will be, but anyway, until next time, we'll see ya.